Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're gonna do something intriguing today. I know JD has his. I figured I would do one for mine as well. We're gonna do a little bit of a rig tour today. I know you guys don't get to see it very often in the streams, but I figured it'd be a good time to canvas what I've got, what I use, why it's set up this way, at least for me personally. And then maybe a few tips, tricks, things you should look at when you're upgrading, as well as how to get the most out of your rig per se. I've gone through a few iterations at this point. Started out on just a basic 32-inch widescreen that was curved with a wheel stand and a Logitech. And today, now we're on to this whole setup that I'm about to show you with direct drive. We've got load cell pedals. I even have a handbrake, even though I don't use it that much because I don't do that much dirt, but I've got it in case I want to do that. And we'll cover some things about why my setup may not be the best for you, and what your plan is getting into iRacing. Because I know I have a lot of people that have watched mine or JD's videos, or even Corn's for that matter, that want to get into it, don't know how to get into it, in what direction they kind of want to go. So the plan is to kind of cover that in this video. If you have any questions or anything at the end, you know, definitely drop a comment down at the bottom. I'll make sure that my Discord channel is in here, as well as my direct Discord. So if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me there or on either of those. Let's get into it. Okay, so what we're looking at here right now is the setup that Robin's currently using. This is actually my old setup to a T. She's using the Logitech wheel and pedals and the 32-inch curve that I used. This wheel and pedal setup is really a good setup for beginners, especially if you're gonna play between platform and stuff. From a standpoint of, you can put it on an Xbox, or well, this one you can put on a PlayStation. They do make an Xbox version. So if you're just starting out, it works really well. Price point's not too terrible, right around $400, sometimes $200 if you catch it on an Amazon Prime sale. Only two drawbacks to this three drawbacks I should say, that I know of. Number one, it's gear driven, so there is a dead spot kind of in the center. Number two, it is low force feedback. People with shoulder issues, stuff like that, it works really well for. And number three, it's not load cell, meaning that it measures the brake travel with distance rather than force. And we'll get into that as we get further into this video, but it is something to be mindful of. But if you're looking to be able to cross-platform game between your computer, between your PlayStation or your Xbox, overall this is a good solid wheel to start with. And then towards the end of this video, I'll give you some more insights as to other options and stuff like that. All right, so now we come over to the current rig. This is an entire year of constantly upgrading, it seems like. Pardon the cables, I'm still working on getting the setup completely cleaned up here to where I'm happy with it. But as you can see, I run triples. The top screen above, that's just for running my streams when I'm talking to you guys, running Discord, things like that. It doesn't come into effect in iRacing at all. They are 3 curved ACER Nitro 27-inch, 165 hertz refresh, 1 millisecond latency. Really like these screens. They are refurbed. Key thing, you don't have to buy new to have a good time in sim racing. These are refurbed direct from ACER. I'm very happy with them, and the price point was really nice. We're going to get further into this, but the one thing that I do want to talk about is the desk. It's made out of wood. You don't need an aluminum profile to go racing. I actually used quite a bit of reclaimed stuff that I had around the house. People laugh. The base for the whole top section, the 2x4s in the top section, actually was part of a doghouse in my garage that I reused. I just added some 4x4s for legs, and away we went. You can make things to do what you want it to do much easier and cheaper than, say, buying an aluminum profile rig. But there's one key thing that comes into play here that you'll see here in the next shot that makes all the difference. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. We build a base out of wood with some rollers to make it to where I can move all of this around really easily. If I want to, I can move this seat completely out of the way, set my computer up just as a normal computer, use it for other games, stuff like that. This kind of came about with a really easy idea of just modularity with my system. If you've got an aluminum profile rig, you're not going to be able to do this. It uses a GT Omega wheel stand, GT Omega seat mount, and then as you can see, I've got 2x4s to put a Pontiac GXP seat. That's what I'm using for my seat. It worked really good. It's non-power, cloth. I don't have to worry about sweating in the sucker. Very comfortable, keeps me where I want to be. And it fits my huge frame. Rocking the R9 wheelbase with the ES wheel and the SRP pedals. And this is where it is key. These things are load cell. They're awesome. Complete adjustability. As you can see off the side, I do have a Stream Deck holder that I use as my button box that you'll see a little bit later on here. I do have a USB hub currently on the frame. I'm in the process of getting rid of that and going to a USB adapter for a card in the back of the computer. But that's another thing that I will say is Etsy is a great place to get stuff for sim racing. There's guys that 3D print headphone hangers, button box holders, all sorts of various things that I'm looking at adding to the foray in this. One thing to note, I do have the bigger rim on my Moza wheel. It is a 13-inch adapter. You know, instead of having the 11-inch rim that's on this, this is actually the 12-inch. It does make it feel less toy-like. I don't know price-wise if you go to the next wheel up, which is the CS, I believe. Because the rim was $50, the wheel was $129. You might be better off price point going to the CS. At the time, I was a little more budget conscious, so just going to this was a step up. I do plan to get a road wheel here eventually at some point, but that's a little bit down the road. So now we're sitting in the car. I've chosen the IR18 as the car to kind of give you guys a look at how much view there is with these triples. I know a lot of guys say go VR. I like the triples because to me it just works better. I don't like the motion sickness, all that stuff. It does make it to where you can see your side mirrors. Passing becomes cleaner just due to the fact that you can now see left, right. You don't have to rely on the spotter as much. I mean, you still need to rely on the spotter, but it's less of an issue. As far as in race, you do feel speed a lot more with this setup. And as you can see here, I've got my button box set up. I've got various different things. There's actually a plugin I will link in the description as well that's with Stream Deck, so you can set all these buttons up. But I mean, overall, the setup that I have right now currently is probably a really good spot to be at, I would say, after a year or so. I've been really happy with it. Obviously, I could make some changes to the current setup from here, but at this point I might as well wait till equipment starts to degrade, and that sort of thing. So at this point, you're probably thinking, wow, this looks expensive. I mean, you figure iRacing, when you get it on sale at Black Friday, you can get it half off for, I think it's like 80 bucks or something like that. And then there's the monitors, there's the wheel, there's the computer. It really isn't as expensive as you would think. So like I said, if you go with like Robin's setup that you saw at the start of the video, we're looking at $200 to $400 in a wheel that can do cross-platform, so you can play things like Forza on your Xbox or your PlayStation. You can bring it over to the computer and play all that stuff on here as well, plus iRacing or Assetto Corsa. And then there's the option of, well, if you're just going to stay on PC, do you go a different direction entirely and just say, to heck with it, I already know I like racing games. I want to keep doing that on the PC. You could go down the road of a Fanatec or a Moza setup. Either are really good products. I chose the Moza for the simple fact of I prefer the way that the Moza connects to the wheelbase better than the Fanatec. I've heard horror stories of bent pins and things like that. And this uses a normal actual race car style connector. So that's why I went with the Moza. Now, if you wanted to be able to still do cross-platform, you can get the Moza R3, which is also a very good wheel. It does have better force feedback than the Logitech. The Logitech's about a 2 Newton meter. The R3 is about a 3.8, I think. But again, a very solid choice. I mean, the one thing that I would say is if you're going to get into this, know the direction that you want to go. Obviously, PC probably has the best, realism when it comes to simulations, things like that. So I think, if you're really going to get into this and it's something that you foresee yourself doing for a long time, invest in a good computer right away before you really throw money at high dollar wheels and pedals and screens and things like that. Get yourself a solid platform to go off of. And I'm not saying you need a 4090 or anything like that. I mean, I rock an i7 with a 3080, not even a 3080 Ti. I know JD runs a 3060 as well as Korn. And JD runs 3 screens on a 3060. So it can be done without the higher end equipment. It's just knowing your setups. The other thing is, for people watching this that want to go to 3 screens, I'll link a URL in the description below. That it's a really good walkthrough, and then I have some videos that Tommy Brandon has put out that helped me with getting the final setup nailed down and things like that. And again, you don't need to go brand new on screens. I mean, when you really think about it, the screen lasts 3 years, it did its job. Like I said, these 3 I got off eBay. They were $100 a piece, ACER refurbs. To get the screen new, you're looking at $250 a screen. So I basically got, 3 screens for the price of 1 almost. So, that's always a good way to look at it too. Again, like I said, the rig I made myself. Couldn't justify the cost of an aluminum profile rig. I've got less than that into screens and the desk. So this can be cost effective. It's all about how far do you want to go with it? My wheel and pedals have been fine. I've had the pedals since January. I've had the wheel since April. Been real happy with both of them. But yeah, I mean, the only reason that if you decided to go the Logitech route or the R3 route and you started really pushing the envelope in terms of the pedals and the wheel and all of that, the first thing I would upgrade is the pedals. That's what I did first, because once you go to a load cell brake pedal, it's a game changer. I mean, you'll see seconds dropping off per lap on road course, just because it's a more consistent braking. It's more natural, the way you drive a car in real life and the way that you drive it on the sim. You can upgrade to the wheel after the fact. You don't have to do the wheel right away. I raced on my Logitech for 6 months before I upgraded the wheel. Plan out your upgrades. Don't just go whole hog and I'm going to buy all this stuff, and then later on you just hate it and you want to change direction. Eventually I want to go to 32-inch screens, because while I like my 27s, 32s just get me a little bit more, especially here on the sides when you're trying to look out the side of the car to make sure you're going to wind up clearing the guy next to you. But overall, the 27s do a really good job. I know Dave Cam did a great video where he talked about why 27s were, to him, the best setup all around. I mean, 27s aren't going to tax your system crazy. They're not going to be too big, and you're not going to need this crazy desk to be able to hold them. And there's a lot of mounts out there for 27s, whereas 32s it's a little bit less to find. So like I say, plan your upgrades accordingly. Don't just go whole hog and spend a boatload of money and then, oh my god, I can't afford it later. You know, like I said, I used a 32-inch single screen for 6 months before I got to the point of, okay, let's try this triples thing. I tested it out with a set of used screens that I had before I went this route and spent the extra money. Why spend the money on something when I can test it for free before I just spend? And as well, you know, when it comes to looking for things for mounts and adapters and all that sort of stuff, seriously, Google sim, or go to Etsy, look up sim racing. You'll find all sorts of things. It's mind blowing, from wind systems to, like I said, my Stream Deck mount, headphone hangers. They make mounts for the Mozas so I could stick it over here on my wall if I want to put my wheel on the wall. That make it way more cost effective. Like that mount for my Stream Deck was $23 shipped to my door, and that was across country. So again, before you spend a crazy amount of money, do your research, do some looking, buy refurb gear, buy used gear if it's in good shape. You know, if you're spending half the cost and later on you have to upgrade because let's say it died, okay, well, we knew this was going to happen. We got 4 years out of it. That's not bad. I mean, when you think about it in the age of computers, 5 years is a lifetime. But with that, if you guys have any comments, questions, leave a comment below. Hit me up on Discord. That'll be down in the description as well. I'll be more than willing to answer your questions. If I don't have an answer, I will get you in the direction that you need to get the answer that you need. Yeah, that's all I have, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think.